because we didn't get access to credit cards until the 70s. I mean, it's still a new thing. And so our moms, couldn't teach us all that because they were still learning. And so I think we have to also zoom out and realize how small the timeline is and give women some grace, because it's not been a long time where we can have a house to our name, keep it in our name, even if we got divorced or widowed or anything else, have bank accounts in our name. And so this is a changing time in history. And I do think social media has helped get that message out, get some role models. When you see someone doing it who's like you, then you think you can do it too.
Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, connecting all things KC. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to call myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachetherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Welcome into today's episode of Connecting Kansas City, where we are covering a topic I am super passionate about and excited about. I am so happy to welcome Maggie Nielsen to the show today. She is the co-owner of Purse Strings and a big believer that money is freedom. Maggie's mission is to empower women to take control of their financial future and make informed choices about how they manage their money. With an MBA degree and several years of experience engaging with financial professionals, Maggie is dedicated to helping women create their own financial journeys. Maggie, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Rachel. I'm super excited.
Yes. So I love that we're just diving in and we're just going to talk about money, because I feel like people just tiptoe around this topic and it's like, oh, we can't talk about it. But I love that's the whole vision of Purse Strings. So for people that aren't familiar, what is Purse Strings? What is your mission? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Purse Strings is all about helping women be financially fearless. So we provide free tools and resources to kind of get those foundations and get the wheels turning. But then we have vetted and approved financial professionals who specialize in serving women. And these can be financial advisors, attorneys, lenders, realtors, whoever may be in a financial transition or transaction.
So literally it's a website you can go to if you're like, who can I trust to give me advice? And then you have a list of people that they can just go to that you guys have done the legwork of vetting. So how was this site born? What was kind of like the lead up to it and the backstory to Purse Strings coming to exist?
Yeah. So I actually run Purse Strings with my mom, and she was creating a lot of onboarding education for the insurance and financial industry and could see they were overlooking women. They only talked to men. It was always a man and a woman, two kids skipping down the beach. And we're like, this is not everyone's life. And then she navigated a divorce with some women who, very brilliant women, were asking questions of, can I afford to get divorced? And what's the cash flow like in my house? And then we would go to like Target and Costco and see women of retirement age bagging groceries and handing out stacks. So we hired a researcher. It came back that the insurance and financial industry won the award for being least sympathetic to women. Women are woefully underserved for their financial future. So I was really the scribe at the beginning, and we talked to a bunch of women and said, really, what do you want? What are you looking for? And it came back that they wanted someplace they can get education that was in English, not in acronyms, and without being, pushed a product right away. But then people who they could work with who will not be like, oh, sorry, little lady, or, oh, you work? We're like, oh, I'll just talk to your husband, because women do hold the purse strings and will be holding the purse strings. So that's kind of how it was born.
I love that. I've experienced that myself. I'm a single homeowner. And when someone knocks on my door to try to sell me something, they always look at me like, where's the man?
Is your husband home?
Yeah. I'm like, this is my house. Thank you so much. You can leave now. And I think the same experience in any financial realm. Have you experienced that personally, like navigating the world? Have you had any moments where you're like, oh, this is why this industry doesn't serve my peers well?
Yeah, when we were holding these focus groups, I was kind of in high school, and all these women would say that their financial professional never even looked at them. And at that point, I wasn't like saving for retirement or anything like that, but I was like, how are these women handing over their life savings to someone who won't look them in the eye? Like, I get mad if the cashier doesn't say hello, like what? And I've seen this happen, at the car dealer or at the car repair shop, or even when I was younger at the nail salon, they would kind of just do your nails quick because you weren't really the paying client. Your parent was. What are you going to do? Say something? Like, yeah, I am going to say something. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's such a cultural thing too, of like not only how culture treats us as women, but like how we're raised as women to act in culture of like I have a dear family member that was bawling after she got her hair done because it wasn't what she wanted. And I'm like, just call them back and be like, hey, can I come back and have this fixed? And she's like, I'm not that kind of person. I'm like, what do you mean? Like you hired someone to do a service, just kindly, gracefully speak up. And I'm like, I think as women, we're like taught, just be quiet and sit there and take whatever it gives to you. How do you guys envision that changing, as we kind of look at this next generation of women that's kind of coming up into adulthood? How can we help empower them so they don't have the same experience and they're really, confident enough to look people in the eye and say, I expect more out of you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things. I think we do have to kind of come together and work together. I think a lot of women used to fight against each other because there used to only be one seat at the table, but we can make a whole new table. So we don't need to fight against each other. We can all bring each other up. But then we have to remember we're voting with our dollars. I'm saying yes to hiring Rachel and her team to buy a house. I'm saying yes to, buying these products, or I'm saying no to that. And so if those people aren't providing you the service, those are your hard-earned dollars that you're saying yes to or you're saying no to. And so make sure you're putting your money where your values are, whether that be in what you're spending, in the business you're going to, in any of those different things. And then, yeah, advocate for yourself. I don't care if people are calling you the B word just because you're speaking up. That's fine. Be assertive. We're allowed to be assertive and take up that space.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, have chills. I'm like, what? I want to like throw so good. And I do think that we have come so far as a culture in recent years, or maybe it's just my bias of the media content that I'm consuming. But have you seen a shift in recent years? Like almost with the rise of like TikTok alone, of women being able to find content that they can consume that helps them understand it and then be empowered to enact different financial behaviors. Have you seen that over the last, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I've definitely seen more growth. And I think some of that is having those role models, having those trusted resources, having that education we can get our fingertips on. Because we didn't get access to credit cards until the 70s. I mean, it's still a new thing. And so our moms, couldn't teach us all that because they were still learning. And so I think we have to also zoom out and realize how small the timeline is and give women some grace, because it's not been a long time where we can have a house to our name, keep it in our name, even if we got divorced or widowed or anything else, have bank accounts in our name. And so this is a changing time in history. And I do think social media has helped get that message out, get some role models. When you see someone doing it who's like you, then you think you can do it too.
I remember the only like financial education I had growing up was in my public high school. We were taught the Dave Ramsey course, which has some good things, but it's not made for everyone. It's made for heterosexual nuclear families of the 90s. A lot of the advice doesn't apply to people outside of that. And that's all I knew. So then you go into adulthood with all of this shame and guilt because you're not handling your money the only way that you were taught to do it. Have you had a hard time finding female creators, female advisors, or are they out there and they're just not getting the microphone that they should?
It's a mix of both. There's so many great women out there in finance, but only 20% of the industry is women. And so it still has a lot of growing that it needs to do. A lot of the financial industry is saying that they're doing it, but not only do they need to bring them in the door, is they need to change their process of learning how to retain them as well. And so there are so many great people out there, but there's still a lot more room for growth. And I think a lot of companies are missing out on some opportunities there.
What demographic is going to purse strings usually? Like who is your like avatar of a client that goes to purse strings looking for a financial professional?
Yeah, we can help, really anyone where they're at on their route, but we're finding our hotspot is kind of that 45 to 65. You might become an empty nester. You might be going through a great divorce. You might be caretaking, as that's a huge thing for women right now, taking care of your kids, but also your parents or your siblings. Yeah, just kind of that age range, empty nester, divorce, caretaking, planning for retirement. That's when really money comes front and center.
But it's like if we could catch people when they're 25, then they're in such better shape when they're entering that age range.
oh man, if we could get some prenups, some retirement planning, some insurance at that time, God, we would be golden.
Yeah. Yeah. So crazy. And for me as a real estate agent too, it's like educating women that like you can go buy a house, and that the same thing with you can invest in retirement. You can do all these things that, I don't know. I feel like almost like men and boys are having these conversations just like around the dinner table or at the golf course. It's just like organic for them. Growing up as a girl, it's like no one's just organically giving you this advice and you have to go seek it out.
Instead, we're getting more money messages of women are bad with math, women are bad with money, you should let your husband or your brother take care of it. Those are, and that's not really your role. And so we're not really getting those messages. But sometimes we also have to realize maybe the guys didn't get the message and they are just pretending to know what to do. And so just because they're doing it doesn't mean they're doing it right. But sometimes they don't want to ask either. And so you have to remember, just because they act like they know it doesn't mean that they know it.
Yeah, that's such a good point, especially in relationships. Like some of my friends that I talk to, they're like, oh, my partner, my husband, whatever handles the money. And I'm like, I don't even know where our money is. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, ah, like I want to shake them. As someone that got divorced in my 20s, I'm like, no, like you don't know what he's going to throw at you. What is for you, like in the role that you are in, kind of watching all this play out, the most frustrating thing that you see or hear from women that is a pretty simple fix?
Just withdrawing themselves from the conversation. Even especially like if they're a stay-at-home parent or they're not bringing in the income or they're not the breadwinner, that they think they don't have a voice. A stay-at-home mom is like a $200,000 position. If you call in the chef, the cleaner, the transporter, the scheduler, and all the different things. So you're saving the family money in a different way by being at home. You 100% have a voice in the finances. You 100% still need to be, funding your retirement. And you also need to have insurance, because if you left, who's going to replace mom? That's a near impossible job. And so you also need to be insured and fully insured as well. But step into the conversation. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Makes so much sense. What do you see purse string is kind of growing to be over the next 5 or 10 years? What's the future of your company if you could dream ahead and envision it?
My dream is to be a household name like Angie's List, where people know that Purse Strings is the trusted source to find financial professionals, and we see women stepping into their power and holding the purse strings. I know when we had, Beyonce come through and Taylor Swift come through and everything else, you saw the economy rise. The money is in the hands of women. And so we can do some amazing things with it for ourselves, for our community, for our children. So I'm really excited to see where that goes, and when these women are working with amazing professionals who really help enhance them.
What is your role, like your day-to-day? What are you doing for Purse Strings? What takes up the biggest chunk of your time? Kind of what if you could describe your job in like a day in the life, how would you describe it?
Oh, as an entrepreneur, you wear so many hats. So I do a lot of building our directory, finding more professionals who really do serve women, talking to them, making sure it's a good fit. We do a lot of, kind of helping women find the right professional for them, our own podcast recordings, some social media, newsletters, finances. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to describe. As a real estate agent, I'm an entrepreneur as well. And people sometimes I think are like, what do you actually do all day besides like just show houses? And I'm like, I don't even know where to begin to describe the tasks that go on in a day. But do you have like a favorite task that's kind of surprised you stepping into the entrepreneurial field that you're like, oh, hey, I love this facet of business and I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I do?
So the thing that makes my mom and I really good complementary people is we have the opposite skill sets. And so the thing I love to do is our database systems and automations. And most people wouldn't want to touch that. And to me, I'm like, well, let's see how we can automate it. Let's see how we can get this database better. Let's dive in, which I know is not everyone's cup of tea, but it's definitely something I love doing. And then it's awesome to see all the work that can happen when you're not working.
Yeah, for sure. What is the dynamic like working with your mom? How does that go? And do you guys ever butt heads, and how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, we warn it's not for everyone. We have a really great relationship. We always have. We do butt heads at times, but sometimes we have the saying, like, I say this with love, but, and that's the thing is we both want each other to improve. So none of it's out of malice or anything like that, but we both want to see each other be our best selves. So we do, have to give each other that feedback and that constructive criticism. But overall, we have a lot of fun, and I wouldn't pick a different way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have siblings or is it just you?
I do have siblings, actually. I live with my brother, so close family, and then I have a half sister as well.
That's fun. Are they involved in the business at all, or are they just like cheerleaders from the sidelines more?
They're just cheerleaders.
Okay, love that. Love that. And what brought you to Kansas City, and how long have you been here, and what do you think of it so far?
Yeah, so I've been here about 18 months. I moved here because my brother lives here, and I thought I'd check it out for a bit, as I've heard great things. And I love just seeing how it's growing. I mean, even in the 18 months I've been here, it's been amazing, but the amount of sports, activities, and the tight-knitness of this community. Everybody I meet was either born and raised here or left and came back, but love Kansas City, love the Chiefs, love the community, which is just so warm to see.
Yeah, it's very wholesome. And it's like, the joke is like, no one loves Kansas City more. No one loves anything more than Kansas Cityans love Kansas City, right? Like,
I would 100% agree with that every day of the week. It's just so, yeah, everyone's like, oh, it's just, yeah. And the Chiefs and just everything else, the passion. I mean, on Friday, like, I don't wear red. That color doesn't look good on me. But man, on Friday, you look around and you're like, I am sticking out like a sore thumb. I am not in red here. Like, this is wild. I love it.
Yeah, so crazy. What's it like running your business out of Kansas City as a base? What have you had much interaction with the local business community, and how has that kind of impacted your worldview of it and the way you've been able to grow and scale?
I've been to so much different networking here in Kansas City. I focused on a lot of women-focused groups, and there are so many amazing businesses and entrepreneurs who are just ready to help and are so community-oriented. All of them are either part of like a Big Brothers Big Sisters or a shelter group. Everyone's giving back as well. So I just feel like there's a lot of empowered women, and it's a lot of growth opportunity, which is great to see when you're coming to business networking. It's been a lot of fun. I've met some amazing women.
Has that surprised you? Because I kind of wonder if our Kansas City's perception from the outside looking in is like, oh, there's this conservative Midwest cow town. And I think there's a lot more to it than maybe meets the eye. Like, what did you expect that coming in?
Not as much as I saw here. And some of these, like, I know when we met at a ad agency or a PR agency, which was huge. I mean, they were doing stuff for Hard Rock and all this stuff. And I was like, in just this small town, Kansas City, like, this is wild, And so I was surprised about how there are some really large companies that have been longstanding that you never hear of, but man, they're out here and they're killing it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. Last couple questions I ask everyone that comes on the show. First one is, what is a great meal that you've had out and about in Kansas City recently?
So I'm in like the Redbridge, Grandview area, and there's a place called Housewife that I cannot get enough of. I just went there yesterday for lunch. I try not to go every week, but I might. And just their sandwiches, their pastries, so good. Fresh focaccia bread. And she's a women-owned business. You might have to get her on here. So yeah, Housewife.
Actually, that's a great idea. I'm going to add her to my list. And also, like, I think just add a line item to your budget for it and just own it. Like, this is just part of my monthly expense and we're just going to go for it, right?
It's so good. It's so good. I get like the same thing every time. And I'm just like, maybe I should get something else. Like, nothing's been bad, but they have one sandwich that I just can't stop eating.
I love it. I love it. Last question is, where can people find you? Where can people find Purse Strings? And if they want to connect with you on social media personally, all the handles, websites, all that good stuff.
Yep. So our website is pursestrings.co. And then all our social media is pursestrings.co. And if anyone just wants to shoot me a direct email, it's maggie@pursestrings.co.
Easy enough. Well, Maggie, thank you for the work you guys are doing. I think it's so cool and obviously so necessary, and appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and share with us about it.
Thank you, Rachel. It means so much.
Guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.